The idea that immigrants come over here and they don't know anything and they're dragging us down, because we all come from immigrants, including you, Tomi Lahren.
He talks about low skills. What exactly are her skills?
Her second great-grandmother had been here for 10 years, yet spoke no English. Oh my gosh. 1930 census says Tommy's 3 times great-grandmother had been here for 41 years and still spoke German. She didn't speak English either. She doesn't even know her own history. She certainly doesn't know this country's history.
Sunny Hostin just tripped over her own moral high horse, and Tomi Lahren showed up with receipts, popcorn, and a flamethrower. Imagine mocking someone's ancestry while pretending to be woke. Sunny girl, pick a struggle. In this episode of Who Wants to Be a Hypocrite, Tomi didn't just clap back, she held a masterclass in public takedowns. Buckle up, because the drama is juicier than a Real Housewives reunion and twice as petty. You won't believe what Sunny said next.
Tomi, what led to that bashing on The View? Well, there is a woman over the weekend who took it upon herself to research my family history in hopes of digging up some kind of a gotcha moment, a gotcha angle to validate illegal immigration and open borders. And what she found was really shocking, guys. She found that my family, who came here in the 1800s from Norway and Germany, that they spoke Norwegian and German. Okay. And really what she did is prove that my family came here legally, but what she was hoping to do was try to call me a hypocrite for believing in merit-based immigration.
It must be exhausting being a full-time moral authority, part-time daytime talk show host, and occasional Olympic-level mental gymnast. Sunny Hostin, yes, the walking encyclopedia of who you should cancel next, somehow managed to slip on her own halo this time. And of all people to notice the fall, Tomi Lahren, a woman whose political commentary is typically sharper than Sunny's wardrobe critiques and whose tolerance for hypocrisy is, well, non-existent.
Again, she failed miserably, but this really isn't what she calls resistance genealogy. It's just another indication of Trump derangement syndrome. I really am happy, though, that she has such a fascination with my family history, and I'm hoping that she will take on Elizabeth Warren's next. Well, it's not just me, it's anybody who advocates for merit-based immigration or has an issue with open borders. And again, just like you said, they don't seem to understand that we on the right believe in immigration. We understand that we are a nation of immigrants, and I am proud of my heritage.
When Sunny took a swing at Tomi's ancestry like it was a piñata at a brunch party, Tomi didn't just clap back, she delivered a blow so elegantly petty it probably sent Sunny's coffee flying off her glass table. But this wasn't your average Twitter feud or a throwaway jab on daytime TV. No, this was a perfectly timed spotlight exposing the soft underbelly of self-proclaimed wokeness, where heritage matters only when it fits the narrative, and inclusivity comes with a politically correct asterisk.
Tomi, don't you believe in love?
Of course I do, but I want to get to your question, because this whole Trump is anti-woman thing, I just don't buy it, because if he was so anti-woman, why did he select a female to run his campaign? If Kellyanne Conway had been a Democrat, you all at this table would have been applauding her, singing her praises. So if he doesn't like women, he's anti-woman. I don't think he would have selected a woman to
That's like
run
saying
his campaign.
Jewish and being an anti-Semite. It has nothing to do with
I trust women.
No, I think there's something to say here. You're putting your money where your mouth is. Putting your money where your mouth is.
Tomi didn't need volume, she needed precision. While Sunny was busy basking in applause for her virtue one-liners, Tomi rolled up with a metaphorical fact-checking flamethrower and lit the whole script on fire. In a world where being offended is currency and victimhood is the resume booster of choice, Tomi dared to say, actually, no, you don't get to mock someone's background just because you're wearing the progressive name tag.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe. Here's how she took the news. Roll it.
This wasn't a feud. Let's not flatter the situation. A feud implies two opponents sparring on equal footing, trading verbal jabs like heavyweight contenders. No, this was a quiet, calculated dissection. a masterclass in surgical humiliation without raising a voice. Sunny Hostin didn't challenge Tomi Lahren. She dismissed her with a flick of the wrist and an eye roll so smug it nearly cracked her own moral high ground. She casually tossed out not-so-enlightened insinuations about Tomi's heritage, not her politics, not her policies, her ancestry.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living, on the backs of others.
Fact of life. Interesting change of tune.
But Tomi didn't play dead. She just sharpened her facts, adjusted the mirror, and let Sunny trip over her own reflection. Because sometimes the most devastating clapback isn't a scream, it's silence with receipts. Tomi came locked and loaded with what the internet lovingly refers to as receipts, and what sane people recognize as common sense. Without shouting, without table flipping, and without calling for a boycott, Tomi simply dragged Sunny across the marble floors of her own contradictions.
Did you provide them with DNA, 23andMe? Because I cannot believe the detail on your background that they were able to get.
Well, I don't have to. She did all the research for me, so I'm sure my family is very
What about
appreciative.
Joy saying that what are your skills? It's beyond research. It is personal. It is mean.
Well, of course, this is classical Joy Behar, but I would like to ask Joy Behar what her skills are, because perhaps we could swap stories. I know I watched Joy and she seems like a highly skilled lady, but for her to attack me, that's really interesting. Those in glass houses should not throw stones.
Apparently, that kind of heritage is only considered respectable if you vote the correct way. So here comes Tomi, calmly unveiling the hypocrisy in the most delightful way possible. She didn't screech about injustice. She didn't demand a network apology. She simply walked the audience through Sunny's greatest hits of hypocrisy, and it was a banger of an album. Remember when Sunny paraded as the patron saint of cultural respect? Apparently that clause had a footnote. Offer void if subject is blonde, conservative, or capable of complete sentences without a teleprompter.
We keep on talking about criminals and immigrants being criminals. And I just want people to understand what the facts are and the stats are, is that undocumented immigrants are much less likely to have committed crimes than American citizens. American citizens commit more crimes than anyone who is undocumented. I also want to make the point that an undocumented immigrant is not a criminal because he or she is undocumented. That is a civil offense. So to call people illegal is, in and of itself, I think, xenophobic and racist. And I do.
What Tomi exposed wasn't just a petty jab, it was the framework of a problem that goes way deeper than one rude remark. It's the habit of selective outrage, the idea that empathy is currency, but only valid at your preferred ideological store. Walk in wearing the wrong jersey? Sorry, your humanity is not recognized here. This trend, let's call it Buffy-style wokeness, is how people like Sunny get away with it. They stroll down the aisle of social justice, cherry-pick the causes that make them look good, and dump anything that doesn't match their aesthetic.
If Democrats really want to die on the hill of bringing back plane loads of criminal, illegal alien gang members...
But you haven't proven that they're criminals.
Please.
That's the problem.
Be my
honestly,
guest.
look, I will be the first one to say, if there is a
members.
criminal, if there's a gang member in this country, someone who has committed any crime, big or small, get him out, sure. I'll absolutely concede that. We don't need criminals in this country. But if you're talking about somebody who you don't know because you haven't afforded them due process, then you can't just make that claim.
But the fact remains, President Trump is not only securing our border, but he is deporting criminal, illegal aliens. And if Democrats want to stand in the way of that, and they want to tell their constituents, hey, vote for us in the midterms, vote for us in 2028, we'll make sure that the criminal aliens come back, far be it for me to stand in your way.
The best part, Sunny couldn't even yell victim. She built this mess with her own 2 hands. She created the litmus test for what counts as acceptable identity, then failed it in real time. The internet didn't even have to exaggerate. The facts were the story. And that, my friends, is the ultimate karma. Of course, the defenders came running. The Twitter professors and Instagram preachers emerged to explain how Sunny didn't mean it, how context matters, how we should be focusing on bigger things. Yet where were these same apologists when the target was someone else?
And I would just like to state, I don't know if they understand this or not, but if you don't want your family to be broken up when you cross the border illegally, here's an idea. Don't cross the border illegally. Then your family will surely stay together. I don't know why the left can't think of this, but they would rather try to tell us that we hate families, we want to break up families, we're horrible, we're despicable. No, we want to enforce federal immigration law, which is why it exists in the first place. But again, the left cannot seem to understand this concept.
Because when someone like Sunny implies that someone else's ancestry is laughable, what she's really saying is, people like you aren't allowed to have pride unless we give you permission. And Tomi? She never asked for permission. She took her identity, polished it with grit, and wore it like armor. The irony here? Tomi's background, the very thing mocked, is the same kind of story liberal media pretends to love. Humble beginnings, hard work, resilience. But if that story ends with a gun rights speech and an MAGA hat, suddenly it's a punchline.
Well, as we've seen, Israel clearly doesn't play around, but every nation has the right to enforce their border. Every nation has a right to protect its citizens. I've said it before. You don't lock your door because you hate the people outside. You lock it because you believe in protecting the people inside. That is why we have a border. But the left would rather us have open borders. Again, that's a threat to our safety and security.
A reminder, if your moral compass only points north when your friends are watching, maybe you're not navigating anything, maybe you're just spinning in circles with a GPS set to double standard. This whole debacle exposes the grand hypocrisy of modern cultural respect. You can't champion diversity and then mock rural white conservative heritage like it's a punchline. Real inclusivity isn't about curated trauma, it's about recognizing that everyone's roots matter, even if they come from cornfields instead of Ivy Leagues.